Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I made this double-sided mermaid themed keychain to go with the tumbler that we made in my last tutorial. So of course, everything I use in today's video will be listed and linked down in the description box down below, and you can even find some discount codes there as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's video. So starting right off the bat here, we have this 3.5-inch acrylic blank. So I actually got a pack of like 15 or 20 of these off of Amazon. They are like the extra large size keychains. I really like the size of these, and I have already used these for quite a few different keychain projects that I've been working on for my most recent launch. And they really are really nicely made keychain blanks. I did a few teacher ones as well as some rhinestone ones and glitter ones. So really I love like the size of them, that they're not too bulky to be a keychain, but they're also really versatile in that there's a lot of real estate to be able to work with. So we're going to go ahead and clean both sides of that keychain blank by just sanding the surface and then cleaning off with some 91% rubbing alcohol. And now I'm going to take the scraps that we had from our last tutorial, the last tutorial that I did, and just use the scrap piece to adhere a section of vinyl to this blank. So I've just gone ahead and squeegeed that on. You could also take this to like your cutware and your cut software, I should say, and cut the size of the circle. Just for me is easier to just do it this way and just trim off the excess like I'm doing now with my craft knife. No sense in really taking it, at least for me, taking it to Cricut Design Space and just making a sized circle. If you were doing a bunch of these, right, and you wanted to make the same style keychain, then it might make a little bit more sense to use your cutware, your cut software, to be able to create the perfect size circle so you don't have to do all of this trimming. But for one simple keychain, didn't really feel like I needed to go that route. So I'm going to go ahead and finish just trimming off all the edge and excess vinyl here. You'll notice that I did just pull the vinyl over the edge of the blank to just make sure I get like that harsh like divot that I can really get my craft knife into to make it a little bit easier to cut. And then I'm just going to go back and cut out that vinyl where the hole should be and make sure I have a nicely cut out hole so we can attach the keychain hardware later. So I did end up going to Cricut Design Space and recutting the same file that I created, the SVG file that I created in the last tutorial. So I'll link that again down in the description box. And then I just grabbed a mermaid silhouette from Cricut Design Space, just the images feature. You can also find a bunch off of Creative Fabrica, Etsy, or maybe you want to do something a little bit different on this side, of course, would also be a great option. So on the scale side, the holographic scale side, I'm going to go ahead and add my mermaid. The other side is where the wording will go, but of course we're going to go ahead and apply glitter first to that side. So I'm going to go ahead and get my gloves on, and we're going to do the glittering to the other side. So you could at this point put the UV resin on this side and seal this side. I like to make sure I kind of have everything that I need done so that I can do what I would call my final layers on both sides of my keychain kind of simultaneously or just right after the other. So we're going to put a little bit of this Trace Mustachios Co. UV resin in a medicine cup, and we're going to mix a little bit of Mermazing in there. So I decided to go with Mermazing, which was one of the glitters that I used for the matching tumbler that goes with this keychain. So I just chose one of the glitters that was from the original design to sort of obviously closely pair these two together. So I did about 10 to 12-ish mLs in my medicine cup of UV resin, and then I just dumped glitter to cover the top of that UV resin. That was enough glitter for me. And so now I'm just going to use my stir stick to very carefully pull the puddle of UV resin in the center all the way to the edges. So this is the part that you really want to take your time with, and I have messed up quite a few keychains because I haven't paid attention to ensuring that the UV resin is getting all the way to the edges of my blank. And really then that kind of creates like a bumpy surface and irregularity to the edges of your blank when you don't have your UV resin pulled all the way to the edge. So really take your time with this, and sometimes you kind of have to get down to like eye level with your table in order to see that the UV resin is pulled all the way to the edge. Go slow with this. Don't pull too far that you're forcing your UV resin over the edge. So I always would encourage to start with a little bit of UV resin mixed with your glitter and then add more later. So start with that small quarter-size puddle in the center, pull out as far as you can, and then if you need to add more, but don't dump a whole bunch of UV resin on top of your blank because then you run the risk of course, having that kind of pool or puddle over the sides. And I've had to start many projects over because I've done that. So we'll give this a good cure for 30 seconds, or 60 seconds rather, until it is completely hard. Now we're going to go back to the Mermaid side and seal that side of the blank. So I'm just going to do a clear coat of UV resin on top of here just to seal in the decal there, and that will be all that I need to do as far as sealing on this side of the keychain. So I love making keychains for the simple fact of they are great additions to any tumbler pairing. It's a great gift to have a tumbler with a matching keychain. I also love that these are great opportunities to have small items at like a craft or vendor show that you're going to be at. So you have some lower priced items versus some more higher priced items like our tumblers can be. So that's also a great thing that I like to do or utilize these kinds of blanks for. Just gives a little bit of a versatility to still have those resin related items, but maybe not breaking the bank and having to spend, you know, $50, $60, $70 on a tumbler at a craft show or vendor event. So just some options there. Now that that is sealed after 60 seconds under my UV lamp, we're going to flip this back over now that my UV resin is a bit cooled on my glitter side, and I'm going to go ahead and apply the Be a Mermaid, Make Some Waves decal to this side. So I did again go back to using that purple bubble-free chrome vinyl from Tech Wrap. I will link that again down in the description box. I decided to just go with the same exact decal that I did the cup to, again, just kind of make them look similar and show that they're a matching pair, of course. We're going to go ahead and get this decal applied to this side of the blank. And then once we've gotten the SVG applied to this side of the blank, we'll then be able to go in and seal this side. So same process here, and these are really fun to do in bulk. Obviously, I'm just doing one right now, but when I'm doing keychains normally, I typically will end up doing like, you know, 6 or 7 keychains at the same time when I'm doing keychains, or even like resin bookmarks, things of that nature. So I really like using blanks as opposed to using molds. Molds are great for my extra epoxy. However, when I'm making like keychains and things, I would actually rather use the acrylic blanks and UV resin than use the molds for keychains. I don't know why. I think it's just a personal preference for me, but just personal preference. I think that for me, it's easier to use these acrylic blanks versus using the molds, just because I feel like there's less sanding work, and we all know how much I don't enjoy sanding. So anything to get out of having to do a whole bunch of sanding is A+ in my book. So we've sealed that side there. And so we're going to add a couple other elements to this keychain. So I want to duplicate the kind of bubble effect that we had going on with the cup tutorial. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of UV resin and just sort of a pinch of Diamond Magic from my Asia Creations. I'm going to go ahead and mix that thoroughly, slowly, not to introduce any bubbles, but obviously want to make sure that glitter is sparkling all throughout that UV resin. And then I'm going to take a little pipette. I use these actually for when I'm doing snow globe tumblers. And I'm going to pipette the little bit of UV resin into little domes, which will represent my bubbles in different shapes, you know, small, medium, large, kind of all over the mermaid side of the blank to mimic that sort of bubble look. I thought that this was a fun way, and I actually wish that this was the way that I had gone to originally for my cup. I didn't think of the fact that I would have to put final coats of resin epoxy over my cup, that I might lose some of that really beautiful bubble effect that I was getting. I am going to show you though at the end of this video how I did remedy that so that the bubbles are a little bit more prominent. They can definitely be felt, but I wanted them to also be able to be seen as well. So I'm going to show you how I remedied that with the cup at the end of this video. But I thought that this was a great way to introduce that bubbled look and still be able to get a little bit of sparkle and shine as well. So this is what the bubbles look on this side. Now that I'm pretty satisfied with that, we are going to dress up the back side as well. And so another alternative that you could be using or doing when you're trying to get the bubble look on your tumbler is by adding some rhinestones. Now, you don't have to use the same rhinestones that I'm using, but I do think that these really do mimic kind of bubbles underwater, if you will. But what I'm going to be using is I'm going to use some Mermaid Tears the Mermaid Tears Scatter Mix in Transparent from Flynn Sisters Supply Shop. I have a discount code and a link in the description box if you want to check out that shop for some beautiful rhinestones. And of course, you guys know I use Jessica's epoxy as well. And so I'm just going to use one of my go-to glues, which is my Liquid Fusion. And I've just put various dots kind of surrounding the decal on this side. And I'm going to go back and just place over those little glue dots that I've placed down my Mermaid Tears. So Mermaid Tears come in a bunch of different sizes. And so I'm not sticking to any particular size. I'm being very random as I pick up and place my stones. I want various sizes of bubbles because, of course, bubbles aren't all one size. So I'm going to go ahead and place these until all of my glue dots are completely covered with a Mermaid Tear rhinestone. And then when I am finished with that, this will just sit. I'll leave it alone overnight because I want to make sure that that glue sets and is nice and hardened. That way, when I go to handle this and apply the keychain hardware, want to make sure that those are not going to then slide off. So I don't need to do any additional sealing when it comes to this keychain as well. The last part and the last thing that we will do with this is just add the keychain hardware. So this is a kind of up close look at what the keychain looks like so far. Let's go ahead into quickly adding the keychain hardware. So nothing really fancy about this, so I am going to speed up most of this process. But I'm just going to grab a couple of key rings, some extra jump rings that I have on hand, and I have my two little plier sets, my needle nose plier sets that I use to, of course, attach these. I did get these cute little seashell earring attachments from, I think it was Hobby Lobby. It might have been Michael's, in just like the jewelry section. And I thought this would be such a cute addition to this cup as well. I think this also would have been a great element to add to the actual blank itself, but I decided to just leave it as sort of an additional keychain piece to the, the keychain hardware. And then I just grabbed a matching tassel, which comes with my keychain hardware pieces that are linked in my Amazon store. So after that is done, that is finished. But I want to go back and show you guys how I did remedy kind of the look that I was trying to go for our mermaid cup. So you guys saw me create this tutorial or create this cup in my last tutorial, and I really loved the bubble effect that we got with the UV resin. However, after I put a layer of epoxy over this, I ended up realizing that the bubbles were kind of fading and you weren't really able to see the true bubble look that I was going for and how it looked when I had originally showed you after the shot of me adding all of those UV resin dots. So I added just a little bit of a paint pen, silver acrylic paint pen, and then went back with a final coat of epoxy, and here is the final look of this cute little matching mermaid set. I absolutely love how this came out. I know I say that every tutorial, but this was definitely a really fun one. I know it took a lot of elements for the tumbler, but I really love that I was able to create a cute matching keychain to go with as well. So that is it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy today's tutorial, give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!